back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. You know, I turn on the news this morning, as I do regularly, and I'm watching CNN and Fox News, and all of a sudden I see a report goes through my phone, and it says, helicopter crashes into Manhattan Skyliner. I said, are you kidding me? What is going on? And, of course, people are freaking out when they're reading something like that. But the fact that it was a helicopter, immediately you say to yourself, okay, pilot error, something's going on, right? And then I'm watching the news, and it's, there must be 100 ambulances, and there's fire trucks everywhere. An entire square block they evacuated everybody from this building. And it turns out that for whatever reason, the weather was horrendous, by the way, back east today. And for whatever reason, this guy in a helicopter decided to crash land his chopper on top of this building that, by the way, it didn't have a pad for. Yeah. And there's speculation that this guy who tragically lost his life, speculation, we don't know if this is true, that he might have had a heart attack. Something happened where he felt chest pain, because he should not have been flying anywhere close to those buildings to begin with. What was he doing there? And usually when you're having issues with your chopper, you want to take it down maybe in the Hudson or something. You don't want to land on a building. That's the worst place you could land it. Not only that, but what about debris that could fall? What if that chopper fell from that building? Do you know how many people would have died on the ground? This could have been disastrous. So I'm watching this story, and, of course, people are freaking out going out of the building. Those people have been through enough in New York after 9/11. You want to talk about PTSD. I don't care if it's a chopper, a propeller plane. You hear a chopper hits a building, immediately you're thinking about terrorism. Immediately you're thinking about 9/11. Now, somebody like you or I, probably not. But it's just, it was just horrible to watch that and to see these people in the streets having to relive even a small portion of what maybe they had to relive 9/11. There were some frantic moments.
So, Brian, I had an opportunity to flip over to Fox News today, and this went down at 2 p.m. Eastern time is when he actually crashed into the building. And so, naturally, of course, you mentioned New York City. The speculation is the possibility of terrorism, but that quickly went by the wayside because the television coverage was focused, and rightfully so, on the fact that the pilot who unfortunately lost his life was able to, obviously you wouldn't expect him to have control of the helicopter in a way where, you could try to avoid mass casualties, but it appears because it crashed into the top of the building, it saved a number of lives. It could have, because as you mentioned, worst case scenario, if it does not land on top of the building, and there are obviously thousands of people on New York City streets at 2 o'clock in the afternoon any weekday, okay, it could have been much more tragic.
Scary
with respect
situation.
to the numbers. So that went down as far as the pilot was getting celebrated. I don't know if really that's the right word, but the pilot was held very in high esteem because he crashed it on top of the building as opposed to having something happen either on the side of the building or obviously on the ground.
Could have been a hell of a lot worse. There is absolutely no question. Number to call 257-5396. I do want to talk a little bit about O.J. Simpson back in the news. We'll explain why in a moment. Let's take a quick phone call. Dan's been waiting patiently on hold. Dan, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian. This is Dan.
Yes, we've established that. Hi, Dan.
I wanted to talk to you about some of the situation with the president real quick.
Sure.
I definitely don't want to get into a yelling and name.
What are you talking about, Dan? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
Good one. I like that. But what I was going to say was there's two ways of looking at this. You can look at it from you don't support the president. You don't have, anything. You disrespect him and you say things about him. And you can call the advertisers on the show that you advertise with and complain. You can call the manager of the station and
sure.
complain. And it goes
It's a
both
free
ways.
country. It's a free
not
country.
only it can go for complaining about the situation, but you can compliment you for the things that you feel are right that need to be on the show.
Absolutely. It's a free country.
Yeah, I hear people, it starts degrading into a name-calling situation, and I absolutely hate that.
Well, can I just explain? I understand, Dan, what you're saying. Some people like it, some people don't. But if somebody calls into the show and they accuse me of something that is not true, I think that is an idiot or a moron or whatever you want to call them. When people call in and they're okay with the President of the United States going after John McCain for his war service and all they want to do is attack Barack Obama, they are idiots. For the people that call into the show that think Donald Trump is the Messiah and he's perfect, they are idiots. I have no problem, by the way, with Trump supporters. If you, a Trump supporter, like my co-host, if you like Trump for some of his policies, for example, but you are willing to call out Donald Trump when he says idiotic, disrespectful things, I have a tremendous amount of respect for you for being intellectually honest. The people I call morons are the ones that are so biased. Example, when Donald Trump said, I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and you'd still vote for me, Hillary Clinton was referring to those people as deplorables.
She was right.
And she was right. Some of those people are idiots. We need honest political discourse in this country. I have no problem if you're a Donald Trump supporter. Just like, look, I criticized Barack Obama. I didn't think he was a great president. I think he was a decent man. I don't think Donald Trump is a decent man. Does that mean I don't support the presidency? Absolutely not. I hope in 2 years the economy is booming. I hope in 2 years that we can say Donald Trump has done an unbelievable job because of this, this, and this. Because if Donald Trump succeeds, the country succeeds. Does that make sense, Dan? I know I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but...
It's okay. I wanted to not interrupt you and let you have your say. I hope you do the same for me. When it becomes name calling, and I do understand you get upset, but on the other hand, it's a little unprofessional to say the things that you say. I would think that you could bring the emotions down a little bit, because when you say those things, people go crazy on the radio. I do. I just wish that you would bring the emotions down. I think.
Okay, so explain to me.
Say,
I understand.
Brian isn't exactly a bastion of formality.
I think a lot of the Trump callers wouldn't be so angry when they call you. And if
I disagree with that.
People want to call your advertisers and say, you know what? I am not going to do business with you because you are advertising on Brian Shapiro.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure a few people that call in are not doing business with me anyway.
The other way, too. It goes to, I want to call my advertisers.
Dan, I get your point. Okay, so here's the deal, Dan. Okay, I get your point. Okay. I understand what you're saying. Yes. Here's the deal, Dan. It comes down to two different types of people, okay? If you enjoy listening to a radio show that is very nice to people that say stupid things, then that's fine. I prefer, and I'm just talking as a listener, I prefer listening to a host that is himself, not who somebody else wants them to be. This is who I am. I am an emotional guy. I am also honest with the listeners all the time. I don't say things that you want to hear. There's a lot of people that call in. They just want to hear the things that they want to hear. That's not me. That's not who I am. And this is the type of show that I do. Now, I'll say this as well. If somebody calls in again and accuses me of saying something or calls me a racist or says you're a liberal or you're this, you're that, if somebody makes a gross assumption about me, I'm going to go after them for doing that. That's just something I do on the show. And while I understand what you're saying, Dan, that's just not the type of radio that I want to do. I'm not going to be nice to every single caller that is an idiot. I'm just not going to do that. Now, the majority of the... I was just going to...
My ears bleed when I hear both sides of this, Brian, and I do have respect for you for doing and saying what you're saying. I just would hope that the professionalism and being able to take some of the stuff from some of the wackos that call in.
Well, here's the thing,
I would
Dan.
hope that you could take that a little bit better.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Dan. Number one, have I called you a name?
No, you haven't. I wanted to keep it that way.
Because you've spoken very eloquently and you've stated your case. We might disagree a little bit, but I haven't called you any name because I don't think you've said anything out of line.
Dan, one of the things that the callers aren't, and this is JD Sharp, by the way, this is Brian's co-host, that callers
Hi, JD.
Hello, have an issue with is the fact that Brian kind of acts like Donald Trump does.
And let me chime in here, Dan. And Dan, let me chime in here as someone who is not only occasionally one of the hosts on here, but also I listen to the show all the time. This is not. I'm someone who enjoys the banter. I love the passion. I love it when people are going back and forth and are passionate about a subject. It makes for good radio. I as someone who's worked for over 10 years in radio in this business, I think it's boring if you have people that agree all the time and that don't have different views.
And I will say this: a lot of the hate is actually love. because Brian is
thing I
acting,
worry
like I
about
said,
Brian-
just like their Lord and
Worry
Savior,
about Brian
Donald Trump.
and his
No, don't worry about me. Dan, I want to ask you a serious question. Who are some of your favorite radio talk show hosts of all time?
Oh, you're going to cringe if I say
No, I
it.
won't cringe. I want you to be honest.
Okay, I really like Rush. I really like Michael Savage.
Okay, hold
And
on
I
a second.
I love Sean Hannity.
Hold
All
on
three
a
of those.
second, okay?
Okay.
Michael Savage is a very eccentric guy. He calls
Yes.
people names on the radio all the time. He attacks his
Yes.
callers all the time. You just told me you cringe when you hear me call somebody a name, yet you said one of your favorite hosts of all time is a guy who's been known to do that for 20 plus years.
So basically, it's okay to call someone names if you Dan agree with them.
Yeah, see, Dan, that's where I think you lose this argument. You just said one of your favorite hosts is Michael Savage. The guy's been calling people names for years.
Dan,
I can only take him in small amounts.
So
But
now
you
he's
asked-
one of
But
your
he's one of your
favorites.
favorites,
You
though.
just said he's one of your
he's
favorites.
He's your favorites. He's one of your favorites
Okay.
20% of the time. Got it. Understood. So that gives him an F.
I want to take that back right now.
Oh, hold on a second.
You're
I
right.
love Sean Hannity.
Dan,
Listen,
do you like Barry Champlain?
he doesn't know who that is. JD, he has no idea who you're talking about. So Sean Hannity does a show on this station. He gets monster ratings, and rightfully so. I think he's a very talented guy. But you cannot tell me that he doesn't go at it with guys who disagree with him, especially if a liberal calls in.
Yeah.
He does it all the time.
Well, it doesn't progress into name calling and things like
He
that.
calls people
What
insane. He
name-
calls people crazy all the time. I listen to his
what
show
name
every day.
What name calling Brian does is it just makes people
First
on
of
my
all,
side of the
I'm not.
fence
First of
just
all, I'm
angry.
not name calling Brian, so don't call me that. You just said, and I got to let you go, Dan. I appreciate the call, but I think you just caught
he
yourself.
Said, no, he said what name calling Brian does. He wasn't saying.
Oh,
your,
okay.
He,
Well,
wasn't
regardless.
tying that to your name as some type of nickname.
Regardless,
Wasn't.
I asked him who one of his favorite hosts are for a
Right.
reason, and he names Michael Savage, a guy who is known to call people some of the worst names in the book on his show.
So
You
basically,
can't-
if you were agreeing with the callers, he would be okay with you calling them
Right,
names.
and that's why I'm sorry he's not credible.
Exactly.
Dan,
if
with
his,
all due
if
respect.
his views are aligned with Brian's, he would feel that. Oh, you know what?
well,
That's okay.
There's
that
a
he
word
does
for that, and it is called bias.
Well, he doesn't have credibility. Just to, okay. Well, I know that you think Donald Trump is a great father and a great husband. I disagree with you, but thank you for the call. Guess what? That's not the type of show that we do here. It's not what we do.
Well, you make a good point, is that if people are going to say stupid things or moronic things or idiotic things, what you're going to call them on that, right? And that's something
Of
that,
course.
to me, quite frankly, is refreshing
on
as
the
someone who
Vegas
listens to the
take,
show.
we get the blood flowing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a basic
I thought he
premise
was going to
here.
say James Lipton.
There's a basic problem that we have is that sometimes you have callers that will call up and they start the phone call off with something that is not true or is a false premise.
Exactly.
And they try to act like it's something
Or
that
is
is
an outright
100% true or outright attack or it's 100% true. And then like the caller right there was talking about, oh, you need to be more receptive, Brian. You need to be more someone who's, willing to listen to them and then maybe refute them without calling them a name. Well, I would say to that, no. If you're going to say something that's ludicrous, that's out of line, that's flat out not true, you're going to get called out on it on the Vegas Take.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, the number to call in 257-5396, 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go quickly to Joe. Joe, what's up?
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Doing good, Joe. What's on your mind?
No, you asked that caller his favorite radio host, and this guy just jumped into my mind. I just wanted to call in and say Paul Harvey.
Who?
Started off
Paul,
radio,
see, Brian. Yeah, I know who Paul Harvey is. You're probably around my age group. Paul Harvey was a very famous radio host and announcer back in the basically in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Not so much later. Iconic voice, particularly in the Midwest.
I just wanted to bring that up, man, because you asked about it, and I was like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, Brian's a little bit too young for Paul Harvey.
I'm not that
but
young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, you are. For Paul Harvey, you are.
Well, Joe, listen, my father would drive me to school every day, and I'm talking when I was 10 years old starting. And he introduced me to Howard Stern. And a lot of people that
Paul Harvey's much, much earlier than Howard Stern.
I understand, but I'm just trying to give my story of why I got into radio. I listened to Howard Stern not because there was all the nudity. And by the way, there's probably more male nudity on the show these days than female nudity, but that's beside the point. I love the way Howard Stern interviews
Which is
people.
totally okay, by the way.
Of course.
Nudity in radio? What?
I love the way Howard Stern interviews people. I always have. I always appreciated his honesty on the air. And yes, he'll call people out on the radio all the time. That's what he does. But when you look at some of the most and I'm not saying I'm one of them. I'm just saying in general, when you look at some of the most successful people in the radio business, they're usually, not all of them, but most of them go after it. The guy named Michael Savage, that guy goes after people all the time on the radio. Howard Stern does the same thing. Mark Levin, who we love, who came on our show a few weeks ago very graciously.
He calls people names all the time.
He calls people idiots all the time, and I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, I know. And I remember some of the people were called up and they said, they don't agree with you all the time, but they really appreciate the fact that you brought him on. And that's called respect. I think that's all we really have to do, man. Just remember, everybody, we're all the same. It don't matter how different we think we are. We're all actually all the same. And I'll tell you one thing that's even more profound is the fact that nobody gets out alive.
Well, that's true. That you do make a good point there. We don't get out alive.
This has turned into sensitive Monday.
I like that phone call was all kumbaya, JD.
On the Vegas
this caller right here is talking about, hey, we all just get along.
Joe, I appreciate that. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for the phone call. 257-5396. I do.
Times in our lives.
No, please don't sing that.
In this show, man, it's all about the interaction, right, Brian? I mean, it's a big part of the show is interaction and the combative nature at times that the show gets.
You know what?
It's a big part of it.
I'll absolutely take any call. Just don't say something stupid. That's all. We're going to call you out on it.
Well, no, you can say it, but you're going to end up calling him out on
it. Speaking of being called out, O.J. Simpson, right? As I like to refer to him as the double murderer. Okay, I know he was not convicted in a court of law, but he was found guilty in the civil suit, and then he goes to jail for this Palace Station memorabilia thing. Well, guess what? He's back in the news, this idiot. So I hope that's okay for some of you listeners out there. I called OJ an idiot. I hope that's all right with you guys because he's a wonderful man. But anyway, OJ Simpson just recently did an interview with the Associated Press over the weekend, and he said that his life has entered a phase he calls the no negative zone. He went on to say, we don't need to go back and relive the worst days of our lives. The subjects of the moment is the subject I will never revisit again. My family and I have moved on to what we call no negative zone. We focus on the positives. It's funny how they never seem to find the murderer, the person who basically beheaded his ex-wife and Ronald Goldman. Never found that killer, huh? It seems OJ has stopped looking. Isn't that interesting?
So O.J. Simpson now has found this inner peace in his body, and he's hitting all these hot yoga spots around Summerlin here in Vegas.
Oh, and listen to this.
Is that the whole plan right now?
Speaking of Vegas, he says he loves Vegas. He loves the town. He says the town's been so good to him. Here's what else he said. He says, everybody I meet seems to be apologizing for what happened to me here. I would love to talk to one of these buffoons that is going up to O.J. Simpson and apologizing to O.J. Simpson. First of all, in regards to that memorabilia thing, he was wrong. He went in there. His friend brought a gun in there. He knew exactly what he was doing. That's kidnapping as far as I'm concerned. He was wrong. He deserved the time he got. Now, would he have gotten that time if not for the double murders? Probably not. But with that being said, the evidence in the double murder, and I hate to go back to this, was overwhelming, man. His footprints were there. His DNA was there. If he didn't do it, he was certainly on the scene of the crime, and he knew who did, at the very least. And yes, I do think he did it. This man is saying that people in Las Vegas are coming up to him and apologizing to him? Are you kidding me? I would love to talk to somebody like that who would go up to O.J. Simpson and say, O.J., I'm so sorry for what happened to you at Palace Station. O.J., I'm so sorry you had to go through that murder trial, man. You're an innocent man. I'm so sorry. Who is he? Who would do that?
I have to
What's
say,
he talking
Brian,
about?
Of all the people, whether they be, athletes, actors, just normal, everyday people here in Vegas that deserve sympathy or deserve to be thought of in a way that's sympathetic, I have to say, O.J. Simpson is not one of them. Okay, there's not. I don't sit around and think to myself, you know what? The juice got screwed over, man. I mean, he got railroaded, you guys. It was a tough break for O.J. that he had to sit in the pokey because of everything that went down at Palace Station. I don't see it. I don't feel it. And let me tell you something. I don't think there is a wave of sympathy out there for a guy like O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, well, poor guy. Geez, pity him. What you know what we should feel sorry for? We should feel sorry for the Goldman family.
Exactly.
And his ex-wife and that family. Now, it brought some...
And the Simpson family.
Absolutely.
And her family.
No
That's really...
question.
That still have to live to this day with the horror that went on.
And what's OJ doing these days? I know he hangs out in the wine bars in Summerlin. He talked a little bit about
he's
that.
always bouncing around spots around Summerlin. He was actually you know what he hit? During the football season, I believe the Buffalo Bills were playing a playoff game. He was rolling and hanging out down at the Buffalo Bills bar down by my house over off of Decatur and Desert Inn. Mm-hmm. He was hanging out at the Buffalo Bills bar down there, and people are out there taking. What's your thought on this, Brian and JD and Lee? What do you guys think about this whole taking a picture with O.J. Simpson and putting it on social media?
I'd flip him off.
Well, I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, there is, the thought of what OJ is as a person.
I'll tell you what I would do.
And I could not imagine.
I'll tell you what I would do.
Not just taking the picture, but then also putting that out on social media like you're proud of it. For some reason.
I would tell somebody to take a picture, and I would flip him off in the picture just for fun. And I would hope that he would say something to me. And if somebody took a video, I'd look at him and say, "You are a murderer, and you should be ashamed of yourself." What's he going to do? Slug me? He'll go back. Good. He goes back to jail. He better kill me. He's going to go back to jail. I would flip him off because he is not a human being. As far as I'm concerned, he's an animal. Okay? He as far as I'm concerned, there's no question, without shadow of a doubt, in my opinion, if not for that racist Furman and the horrible, back then, L.A. Police Department.
LAPD investigation, which is in shambles, right?
They totally screwed that case up. Mm-hmm. Marcia Clark and Darden were a joke. Okay. Now, with that being said, OJ had some great attorneys. Johnny Cochran, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Robert Shapiro, another fantastic attorney. Bailey, all these guys.
Kardashian.
Yeah, exactly. Kardashian, another fantastic attorney. There's no doubt in my mind that he committed those murders. And if I went up to him, I would say that. And if you people don't like it, he's found innocent in a court of law, fine. You want to give us a call and defend O.J. Simpson, please do that. By the way, we know 100% he was a wife beater. We know that. We know that he beat her repeatedly on a number of occasions. What would you call a man who does that? A man who puts his hand on a woman and beats a woman. What would you call somebody like that? Number to call, 257-5396. Again, that number to call, 702-257-5396. Let's go to Roberto. Roberto, what's up?
How you doing?
Doing good, Roberto. What's on your mind?
I seen the funniest thing that happened to OJ one day. That some lady walked up to him and she goes, "I always wanted to shake the hand of a murderer."
I saw that.
The look on his face.
Roberto, I saw that on YouTube, and I got to tell you, I give that woman so much respect for doing that, and I wish more people would go up to him and do that. I don't want this. Unfortunately, his ex-wife and Ronald Goldman are dead, but I don't want him to ever forget. I hope somebody goes up to him every single day, and does that. Roberto, what do you make of him saying that he says that Vegas people are coming up to him every day apologizing to him for what happened to him? Do you believe that? Because I don't.
I don't. I live here in Vegas for 35 years, and I don't think I would be surprised if it did.
I think he's a liar, but he's been lying his whole life, so that wouldn't surprise me if he was lying again. Is it possible that maybe one or two football fans went up to him and said that? Yeah, I guess that's possible. A couple of idiots did that, but I think in general, yeah.
Maybe when they get drunk.
Yeah, possibly. Wasn't it true though? Do you remember this story, Roberto, where OJ tried to sue the Cosmopolitan for like 7 figures or something because they threw him out because they claimed he was intoxicated? Whatever happened to that? That story came out like about a year ago, didn't it?
I remember that.
Yeah, and then we never heard anything about it. Obviously, the charge was, I would assume the lawsuit was dropped. Yeah.
I would, yeah. Well,
all right. Roberto, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Thanks for the call, Roberto. 257-5396, number to call again, 702-257-5396, talking about OJ. I'll tell you what I want to do, too, when we get back, because this was really a story that, I don't want to say it hit home to me, but I grew up a Boston Red Sox fan.
Yep.
Okay, I grew up in Connecticut, and I grew up a Sox fan. And I had a chance to catch David Ortiz hit number 400 in Oakland, and this story that came out yesterday, scary stuff, man. David Ortiz, lucky to be alive today. We'll talk about that. Sharp and Shapiro, along with Chris Wynn in studio. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN. 720 AM, KDWN. 720 AM, KDWN.